to another edition of Hit 'em High alongside Eagle great Seth Joyner. With Everett Terry, I'm Scott Seidenberg coming to you live from beautiful Parx Casino, as always, presented by Kingsmark Cabinets. And let me tell you guys something. Your comments are what makes this show, okay? You contribute to the show just as much as we do, so be sure to send in your comments, your questions. We will get to them on the air because I know there are a bunch after that Eagles loss to the Patriots yesterday. A reminder to share the episode as well, because sharing is caring. For every share, we will donate $1 to a great cause. It's the Help Us Adopt Foundation because, guys, this is National Adoption Month, so let's get to the sharing. Let's get to the donating. We'll talk more about that coming up in a few minutes. But, Seth, yesterday can only be described one way. Frustrating that the Eagles dropped that game to the Patriots.
You know, it's beyond frustrating because very few times Tom Brady has never had 14 incompletions in one half in his entire career. I mean, defensively, Jim Schwartz had a great game plan, and if you can hold the New England Patriots to 17 points, defensively, you've done your job. You know, you have to take a real hard look at Carson Wentz's performance, because I know people don't like, for us to get on Carson Wentz. It's everybody else's fault. It's Doug's fault. It's, the lack of wide receivers, everything. Lane Johnson went out. After Lane Johnson went out, the statistics say that Carson Wentz is not as efficient as a passer with Lane Johnson out the game. But you don't pay a $32 million quarterback $32 million that he has to rely on everybody else. It's his job to make everybody else better, and I'm not going to immune him from the fact that he played terrible yesterday. He played awful yesterday. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That second to last, and everyone wants to talk about the drop by Nelly, and I'm sure Everett's going to get into it. But I would ask you to go back and look when they turned the ball over on downs. That second to last series, Carson Wentz missed 3 guys in the flat, wide open. You can't put that on everybody else. As a high-paid, elite-level franchise quarterback, you have to make those throws. And then at the end of the day, it all comes down to Doug Peterson, because you are going against the number 2 pass defense in the NFL, the number 1 defense overall in the NFL, a defense that's ranked 11th against the run, giving up 4.7 yards per carry. And you throw the ball a call 48 times and only run it a call 18 times. You played right into Belichick's plan. You played right into what he wanted you to do, and that's what cost him the game.
And it's even worse than that, because since week 4 on, the Patriots defense has allowed over 5 yards a carry. Eagles only averaged 3.9 yards per carry yesterday. E.T., there's no denying they were hamstrung yesterday. No Alshon Jeffrey, no Jordan Howard. You mentioned Lane Johnson leaving the game. That's a lot to put on a team, losing those players.
So when you build a game plan all week, you kind of have an expectation that certain guys are going to play. Jordan Howard was hampered with a shoulder injury coming off of a bye, so you kind of felt that he probably might not play. They go to decide Jay Ajayi off the street. Now, why Jay Ajayi, who's familiar with the offense, didn't get a single carry or a touch, I don't care. If you're signing him, you're bringing him into play. Why he wasn't on there, at least to see what he could do. If you give him a draw or a halfback blast just to see what he does with the ball, is fine, so be it. But I'm going to say something. I understand everybody wants to lay this at the feet of Carson Wentz. I get it. Trust me, I do. He threw the ball 40 times, completed 20 of them. But how many drops were there in this game?
48.
48 times they called the pass, and quite a few times he got sacked, whatever the case may be.
5 sacks.
Yep. But
and all 5 of them was his fault.
He was holding the ball too long. We're going to give you all of that. But here's what I'm also going to talk about. Let's talk about those drops, because wide receivers got one job. Not 2, not 3, one job. Catch the ball. Nelson Aguilar doesn't want to play football, not at least in the NFL level, because the kid, again, shows you how great he is at tracking a fly ball. You might as well have Reese Hoskins out there for as great as of a track a fly ball he is. He's terrible. Listen, you can say whatever you want about Carson Wentz, but when the game was on the line, he got the ball to the playmaker. Tom Brady would have done it. Aaron Rodgers would have done it. I don't care what quarterback you have back there. If you put the ball in the midst of the wide receiver in the end zone, you catch the ball.
So that play, you telling me that play was the reason why they lost the game?
I'm telling you, if he catches that ball and ties the game, it's a whole different game. And we're not talking about how bad Carson played.
If and Bus was candy and nuts, we'd all have a merry damn Christmas.
Don't disagree with you.
Okay.
Don't disagree. We talk about the drop passes and everything else.
You got 59.3 minutes of football, and you're going to boil it all down to the last 3?
Not at all.
No,
but what I'm going to say is that they've been dropping passes all season.
You
all
know
season
that.
They've been dropping
you
passes.
know that. So,
right, so what's he supposed to do? Throw it to himself?
You're supposed to run the damn football. That's what you do.
I don't disagree, and that's a Doug problem. But at the same token, why isn't Carson at the line audibling to a run play? Now there's a bigger question. Let's talk about that.
Well, maybe
because great quarterbacks see it at the line and say, let's go.
Maybe he don't have the autonomy to do that.
Which now comes back to coaching.
Okay.
Before you lay it at Carson, lay it at the coach.
Well, before you lay it on Carson.
Before you lay it on
Aguilar. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to lay it on Carson. You want to know why? Because every other quarterback in the NFL that's making $30+ million, everyone says, hey, you know what? He makes everybody better, okay? And I'm looking at Lamar Jackson. I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes. I'm looking at freaking Dak Prescott.
Who's actually better than Carson?
I'm looking at Deshaun Watson. And all of those guys were drafted after Carson Wentz, and they are ascending. And he is either flatlining or regressing. Okay, so if you're going to give him $32 million and call him a franchise quarterback, then you know what? Damn it, play like a franchise quarterback.
I call this the Andre Iguodala
Plain
effect.
and simple.
You overpay a guy based off of what you think he's going to be, and then have expectations that are just not in his skill set. Carson Wentz has shown you 1 good season out of 4. 1. Everybody anointed him as the second coming of Christ, walking on water in 2017 before he got hurt. He's not lived up to anything since then. I don't know if it's coaching or regressing. I don't know if it's his quarterback coach. I don't know what the issue is, but what I'm saying to you is 1 year out of 4 doesn't warrant $32 million. But what were the Eagles going to do? Let him walk for nothing?
No,
Try to trade him?
In the NFL, supply and demand. You have to pay for your quarterback.
You have to pay him.
And unlike baseball or any other sport,
they didn't have to pay him this year.
Football is a sport where
point.
you pay based off what you think the person's going to do rather than based off what they've already done. We know that. But you mentioned running the football. You mentioned coaching. There was no Jordan Howard in this game. Miles Sanders was your starting running back. For lack of a better term, he was the guy that was going to dominate the carries.
Right.
Why is your starting running back only touching the ball 4 times in the second half? That's inexcusable.
Comes back to my point. It's Doug Peterson's fault.
He leads all rookies in receptions, running backs, right? With the receiving yards.
They took that away. Bill Belichick
doesn't matter.
wasn't going to let him beat him with
4
that.
touches
Listen, in the first half.
4 touches.
Let me tell you what they did in the first half, what they averaged in the first half.
They were killing
them.
them.
Okay, then.
They jumped out to a 10-0 lead.
So they were averaging 4.6 yards a carry in the first half alone. Okay? They only ran the ball or called 10 times. You can't do that against a team like
They can't stop the run.
Because you know what happened? When you had them on the ropes and you were controlling the line of scrimmage, okay, you could have continued to dominate the game. But what he did was he took them away from running the football and started throwing it like crazy. Now all of a sudden you allow Bill Belichick to make adjustments. Now you get in the second half, now you can't run the football.
Yep.
Okay? For the same reason, I'm going to do a breakdown on the board a little later on. They go to this 5-man front, and all week long everybody talked about, and we talked about it in pregame yesterday. Oh, we went back and we looked at the Super Bowl. I'm like, why are you looking at the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
You know,
team.
it's a different defense, different personnel, different scenario and situation. What you should have been looking at is last year's Super Bowl against the Rams, because the exact same things they did to the Rams is the exact 5-man line that they ran against Carson Wentz yesterday. They isolated every offensive lineman one-on-one, knowing that when Lane Johnson went down, they was licking their chops with Big V over there at right tackle, man.
He had no idea what the hell was going on half the time.
And you talk about,
my God.
You can take care of that by running the damn football, man.
Having the Patriots on the ropes. When they run trick plays, that's because they're on the ropes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the pass that Edelman threw. They tried it also with the flea flicker to Rex Burkhead, flipping it back to Brady. When Bill Belichick has to resort to doing trick plays, you know he's backed up against the ropes. So the Eagles had every opportunity to control this game in the second half, and they let it slip away. The offense was inefficient most of the game. It's unacceptable that you hold Tom Brady to that type of performance. You hold this Patriots offense. This is the first time in Tom Brady's career that somebody else in the game had more touchdown passes than he did.
I was going to say that. Not only that, but it's also the first time he's beat the Eagles without throwing a touchdown. So the point I'm making is this Tom Brady reminds me of the Peyton Manning that you saw in Denver where the defense carried him. He is reserved to realizing that the defense is better than his offense right now. They don't have the playmakers. And he realized that's why he was so dejected in the postgame.
I'm not going to go that far. What I'm going to tell you, what I'm going to tell you is that, you know, the offensive line isn't as efficient as they used to be. Because when you get beat up the way Tom got beat up yesterday in the first half, now that becomes problematic. That's one of the reasons why Baltimore gave him fits. If you can rush the passer against this team, against the New England Patriots, and everybody's going to say, oh, you know what? Father Time is catching up. Father Time is catching up. I don't believe that. Because in past years, what they've always done is they've always been able to run the ball. Everybody thinks that Tom Brady is this guy that throws the ball 40, 50 times every game. They don't want to throw the ball that much. They want to be balanced. If you go back to the Super Bowl last year against the Rams, they ran the ball 35 times and they threw it 38 times. You talk about balance. Yesterday, it took 47 passes for them to win that game yesterday, and they only won by a touchdown. Okay? And you're going to tell me that ain't on Tom Brady. That's on the offensive line, the inability to run the ball. Okay? And yeah, you hit it, the nail right on the head. When they start doing these little trick plays, that means that we've tried everything in our arsenal and nothing is working. We got to hope that we can make a big play by tricking somebody.
Fair.
Why Eagles fans are frustrated today, there's a lot of reasons why Eagles fans are frustrated, but the overwhelming sense, and we touched on it briefly, the drops. You look around the NFL, there are guys that are catching the football, and it's not just easy catches. Guys that are making toe taps, guys that are making one-handed catches, guys that are jumping over defenders. The Eagles right now, I understand that Alshon Jeffrey's not there. Someone's got to make a play. And Dallas Goedert did all that he could, and he got lit up on that play at the end of the game. That's dangerous. But someone's got to make a play on this team.
He's got to catch that ball too.
Yeah,
the drops are unacceptable. There's a lack of playmaking on the outside that is very frustrating to Eagles fans.
Well, it goes back to the point. So we talked a few weeks ago. This falls on Howie. Weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago, we said go get something else. You can't count on Deshaun. You said it. Don't count on Deshaun. Josh Gordon out there, he goes to Seattle, he makes plays. I don't care if he smokes weed every day. I don't care. If the man's not getting kicked from the NFL for smoking weed, you put him on the field, you let him play. He's a playmaker who comes in and is instantly 3 times better than every other wide receiver combined on this roster. Right now, you bring him in, you let him play. Just throw it up and let him go get the ball. That's what he does. He's got breakaway speed. You don't want to go get him? Okay. Manuel Sanders, 3rd round pick. He's looking pretty good in San Francisco. He was out there for nothing. There were guys out there they could have gotten that they chose to pass on for whatever the reason. Maybe it's because Howie realizes this team just isn't good enough. You go and you invest that pick in a guy, you're probably not going to re-sign. Now you've given away a pick, even though Howie's not the world's greatest drafter, that's going to amount to whatever it's going to amount to, and now you've given away assets for guys you could use in the future with a team that's not going to win the Super Bowl. Even if the Eagles sneak in at 9-7, because they're not a 10-win team, even if they sneak in at 9-7, they are not going to get out of the first round. This team can't beat anybody better than them. The win at Green Bay was Aaron Rodgers because he missed the guy in the end zone for the touchdown. We're not going to sit here and act like they beat the brakes off of Green Bay because they didn't. Aaron Rodgers missed a game-winning touchdown in the corner of the end zone. He admitted it. We talked about it. So it wasn't like they dominated them. And every other team they've played that was at their level or better than them, they've struggled with. They're not going to beat anybody in the playoffs. Who are they beating? Who are they good enough to beat?
Hey, listen, I as much as I want to see them in the playoffs.
For what?
Because, well, first of all,
just make
the more games they play, the more checks I make.
Touche.
Okay.
Touche.
That's
a real answer. I respect that. Real.
I'm just being real. For that selfish reason. You understand what I'm saying? For that selfish reason.
Hey, I hope y'all go to the Super Bowl.
I would love for them to make the playoffs. Okay. But in a lot of ways, in my opinion, it would be detrimental for them to make the playoffs because just like last year. When they backed into the playoffs last year and won a game and then, one drop ball away from the NFC Championship, everybody believes, I think that it gave the Eagles, the fans, and everybody else this false sense of security that they were still right there where they were still at the top level. And what winds up happening is every time that you make the playoffs as a football team, the organization is walking around with their chests out.
Agreed.
Yeah, we wanted 6 teams, out of the 32, 12 teams out of the 32 teams that made the playoff. So you walking around patting each other on the back, but in reality, those wild card teams, a lot of times those teams back into the playoffs. Every once in a while, a team like the Giants will get hot, at 9-7 and go on a run. But it doesn't happen that often. A lot of time it's window dressing. The way that things are set up, a whole bunch of teams can be bad. And you could be the 5-6 team and back in at 8-8, 9-7. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a playoff team. You're a playoff team because everybody else was just that bad. So in a lot of ways, I think it would be a bad thing for the Eagles to actually make the playoffs. They need to feel the sting of this. Howie needs to feel the sting of this. The players need to feel the sting of this. They need to understand that, we're all underperforming. Howie's underperforming. When they ran Chip Kelly out of town and put Howie back in place, Jeffrey Lurie said everybody's now accountable. That everybody included Howie Roseman. That's why Howie went and got Joe Douglas, because he knew he needed a personnel guy behind him to help him do his job. Well, Joe Douglas is now gone. Now Howie's going to be on the hot seat. In my opinion, Doug Peterson's on the hot seat. How many years are we going to give him for winning that Super Bowl?
In this city?
Buys you a little bit of time, but let's try and look at it from the bright side.
What bright side?
Because
I'm here for the same thing.
I'm gonna be optimistic here.
Okay.
They're 5-5. You look at the remainder of their schedule. There's 4 very winnable games on that schedule. Games that they will be favored to win.
They'll win those 4.
If they win that 4, that is a 9-win team, which might be good enough to get a wild card spot in the NFC. You steal one of those other games. I'm just saying, 9-7 is very doable for this team.
If the Eagles do not win the NFC East, they will not make the playoffs.
Agreed.
Because the 2 wild card teams are coming out of the NFC East and the NFC West and the NFC North.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
Yep.
Either Minnesota or Green Bay, one of them's going to win the division, the other one's going to be the wild card. Okay? Either Seattle or the 49ers, one's going to win the division, the other's going to be the wild
Eagles
card.
ain't better than
Plain
none
and
of
simple.
them.
The only way the Eagles are going to get into the playoffs is that they win the NFC East. And the way the Dallas is looking right now,
you need the Cowboys to lose
that's
4
slim
games.
to none. The
Don't
slim
see
is
it.
gone.
You need them to lose 4 games, including the one against you. Don't see it.
I mean, now, the only plus is that Dallas is now moving into the most difficult part of their schedule, okay? And the Eagles, what the Eagles got to hope is that they can find a way, because what I said, they've got to split. They've got to split and win one of these games, either New England or Seattle, and then they got to run the table.
Yes.
And that means that you got to beat
Seattle's a must
you got to beat the Dallas Cowboys coming in here in Week 16.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
What have you seen that's shown you that they can beat Dallas? Because I haven't seen anything showing they already played Dallas, and we saw that DVD.
Let me tell you this though.
Oh, okay.
You know, defensively, yesterday they looked the best they've looked since the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
But
But
how
they're
much
also
is it-
playing against
how
an
much
anemic
is-
offense that's terrible.
And also, how much is that getting up for the Patriots, all the hype?
That's true,
Yeah,
too.
and then
And they didn't get up for Dallas.
So what's the difference? What's the
Yeah,
difference?
I get it.
If
I
you're at
understand.
home,
I understand.
listen, if those 53 guys are at home against the Dallas Cowboys, okay, in Week 16, and they can't get up for that game, I don't even care if you already out the playoff picture. If you can't get up for that game, then you know what, Howard, you need to be sitting in the press box with a piece of paper and a pen, writing down names and numbers of guys that you can get their asses up out of here.
I'm going to ask you this question. Let's go down the line, since everybody thinks that the Eagles got it for them defensively against the Patriots and then Dallas. Let's just go position by position. Is Dak playing better football than Tom Brady right now? Yes. Is Ezekiel running better than any running back for the Patriots? Yes. Are their wide receivers light years better than any wide receivers?
Not really. What they've done is they've transitioned the team over
to Dak. But when you give the ball to Ezekiel, he's going to make plays. You don't see that with New England. Are their wide receivers better than the Patriots wide receivers? Yes. Even Jason Witting, as old and done as he is still better than whatever they got in New England because they don't have Gronk. The other guy's out. I forget his name. He's hurt. You know, so when you look at their offensive playmakers on both sides.
The Eagles the business yesterday.
Hey, listen. But what I'm saying is when you look across the line in terms of position, when you got a defense that you know you can overmatch their offense, it's easier for you to come out and look great. When you got to go against a team that can match up against you and expose your weaknesses, expose those terrible corners who've looked great the last 2 weeks because they haven't had to really defend anybody. Now you're going to really see what it is when you got to play Dallas.
True, but every single game is different.
Fair.
You know, I mean, that's why I don't like, certain comparisons within the game. The statistical, comparisons, they really don't make sense, because who would have thunk with the Eagles being in the position that they were, going down to Dallas on a Sunday night, that they go down and lay an egg like that, okay? So, and then who would have thunk that the Eagles could go into Green Bay, and come out of there with a victory, or the Eagles could play the 8-1 New England Patriots the way that they played them yesterday. So what winds up happening is every single game is different. Every single game, your emotional level, is different. Man, I looked at the University of Minnesota. They had the emotional win against Penn State last week. They come in against Iowa this week. They look like they're sleepwalking.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's hard when you get up like that one week to get yourself up like that again the following week because your adrenaline stores are completely depleted, man. So every game is a different game. Every opponent is a different opponent because there are different dynamics that come into play as to, maybe we're a better matchup against Team A than we are Team B. And Team B can be a better team, but we just match up man for man better against that team. So you know, the game's like Herm said, you know, you play to win the game, and you know, you got to show up on any given Sunday to see what happens in the game.
Look, I know we're throwing a lot of shade at the Eagles today, but nothing shades my eyes better than Woollywear.
That was
and we are going to bring in Miss Dion to tell us a little bit more about Woollywear.
Hi,
which
guys.
is
How you
stylish
doing?
Right now.
That was a sweet transition.
That was a hell of a transition.
That
segue was awesome.
That's because I feel cool wearing these, you know?
So again, I'm Dion. I am the founder and creator of Woollywear. Woollywear is a unisex, fully polarized, UVA, UVB protected eyewear. And so we really are trying to be fashionable. We like to call it functional fashion, where you're protecting your eyes. 30% of glaucoma patients come from UV rays. We should be wearing sunglasses all of the time, whether the sun is out or not. And so I'm wearing one of our new designs. We have some ready for the holiday season. Thank you. This is Vamp. And so each of our lenses have a mirror-coated pattern that's inspired by an insect, believe it or not.
Wow.
I was surfing the web, saw some beautiful insect eyes, and the colors and patterns just spoke to me. And so we transferred that onto our polarized lenses.
I feel the need for speed.
So Woollywear is available at our website at woollywear.com. Woolly means shade in Swahili, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
They're also available at Omega Optical here in the city.
That's right. And you can find these shades at Omega Optical. 2 locations, 1701 JFK Boulevard and 3213 West at Cheltenham Avenue. That's where you can get these Woolly shades. Dion, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you, Dion.
Have a good
We're
one.
the rest of the show.
That's well, I mean, we're at the table, so it's like we're playing kind of
Hey,
cards.
this is perfect when you're playing poker.
Yeah, I know,
Can't
right?
read the odds at all.
I want my daddy's records.
I mean,
It is.
I feel a lot cooler, you know. Besides sitting next to you and Seth. I mean, now I got these shades on. But look, Seth talked a little earlier about what's been going on with the pressure that the Patriots and other teams have been presenting with the Eagles, and how this offense, not just Carson Wentz, but how the offensive line and everybody else adjusts to it. So let's head over to the whiteboard and we'll talk about how the Eagles have handled some 5-man pressures, not just the last game, but for the large part of this season. Seth?
Well, like I said earlier, the Eagles, it was known to everyone that the Eagles went back and looked at Super Bowl 52 to try to get some game plan and see how Bill Belichick would deal with this game. And like I said earlier, what they should have done is they should have went back and looked at last year's Super Bowl against the Rams to understand what was going on. I think one of the biggest losses yesterday was Lane Johnson right here at right tackle. Because, you know, I put a couple of posts up after the Super Bowl last year, and I talked about how the New England Patriots kind of inverted their 30 look and moved their outside linebackers inside, okay, and created a situation where you got man-on-man blocking right here. So when you lose a guy like Lane Johnson, okay, and you got Vitae, to me, the 2 weak links in this offense, in this offensive line, is Vitae and Seumalo, okay? So what the Patriots are trying to do, they're trying to create these one-on-one matchups. You know, you got Jason Kelsey trying to fight a nose tackle all game, and they're trying to get Vitae out here on an island one-on-one. I mean, you know Brandon Brooks is going to take care of his guy, okay? But these are the 2 matchups right here with the red dots around them that they're trying to create all day long. And the problem was, you know, we talked about the passing game and we talked about the running game. And I think that, you know, Bill Belichick did a great job of tricking Doug Peterson into a passing game and creating a scenario where you're one-on-one. Because even if, you know, the protection got so bad that the back would stay in and help. So now when you got this safety that drops down in the box, okay, now they're trying to take away number 86 right here, Zach Ertz, okay? So now they got him double, you know, and no one else anywhere else was winning, was getting open. So they took this away and they got pass rush and they got to Carson, okay? The last thing, okay, I've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. I don't like Carson playing out of the shotgun as much as he plays out of the shotgun because he lines up at 4 yards to 4.5 yards right here, okay? He gets the snap, he takes 2 steps back, and he sets, okay? What happens is when it comes time for Carson in passing situations to climb or step up in the pocket, because the pocket is so shallow, this is his pocket. Any kind of pressure that you get right here, and this is happening a lot, where does Carson have to step up to? There's no room for him to step up in the pocket because he's always lined up at the same depth. I would love to see Doug start running some play action pass and running some of these passing plays with Carson under center. Going play pass and getting Carson lined up back here 7 to 9 yards deep, a la Russell Wilson. So now there's a pocket decline. But when you line him up close, there's no pocket decline. And when you got 2 weak links on your offensive line and everybody's man-to-man blocking across the board and you have no answer for it, 0 points in the second half is normally what you're going to get out of a Bill Belichick coach defense. Fellas.
Listen, even with these sunglasses on, I can clearly see that the Eagles have deficiency on offense. They got deficiencies on special teams. They got deficiencies in coaching. Be that as it may, these are fantastic glasses, these Bullywear glasses, and what we're doing right now, for everybody that is sharing this show, you're going to have an opportunity to win a pair of these glasses. Randomly, we're going to select a random share of the show. So what you want to do is get out there, share these glasses as much as you can. We're going to announce that winner. And what will happen is you will get a complimentary pair of these Bullywear glasses, courtesy of our friends over at Bullywear, for those who share the show.
And for every share, $1 gets donated to a charity each and every month. You guys know that. And this month's charity is Help Us Adopt, because it is National Adoption Month. So to help us explain more about what Help Us Adopt is, we welcome in Courtney to the show and tell us more about National Adoption Month and the Help Us Adopt organization.
Hi, thanks for having me. So Help Us Adopt helps families with the high cost of adopting a child. It can be $40,000 to $60,000 out of pocket to help bring a child home. So what we do at Help Us Adopt is offer up to $15,000 in grants to help with these costs. So far, we've built almost 300 families and have given almost $3 million in grants.
And so if interested families, just how do they contact the organization?
So, yes, so they can come to our website, which is helpusadopt.org. They can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and they can check out our new podcast. We have a special guest as well, Sutton Foster, who is the star of the hit TV show Younger, and you can find out how adoption has impacted her.
Very cool. Help Us Adopt organization. It's a great cause, and for every share of this episode and every other episode this month, we will donate $1 to the Help Us Adopt. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it is National Adoption Month, so for more information, check out Help Us Adopt on all across their social media platforms and online. Guys, let's go around the NFL because we've seen some incredible play the past couple of weeks, and none better than the current MVP favorite, Lamar Jackson.
So what I love about what Baltimore did is they took a risk. They had a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Joe Flacco, who was clearly on the backside of his career. And even though he pretty much had lifelong career legacy in Baltimore, could have played his career out, they decided to go in a whole different direction with a guy that multiple teams passed on to take quarterbacks ahead of him, Mitchell Trubisky. And so what you do when you do that, and then you see this guy come out and light the world on fire and prove all the naysayers wrong, showing he can not only create plays with his feet, he can also throw from the pocket, be accurate, which is one of his biggest flaws coming in. And you have a defense that is hungry and ferocious. And they go out and go get a guy like a Marcus Peters, another corner, who people say, oh, you know, he can't play, he doesn't fit in the Rams system because he didn't play a scheme that fits his skill set. You put him in Baltimore with a nasty defense that let him play to his skill set. You saw how he locked up DeAndre Hopkins, although there was a PI play there. We're not going to talk about that. But he locks up DeAndre Hopkins for the most part, who's arguably one of the top 2-3 receivers in football. And what you have is a defense that's built to win with an offense that's built to help get them there. In the last month, he's only went out and beaten Tom Brady. He's only went out and beaten Russell Wilson. And he's only went out and beaten Deshaun Watson. I don't know what else you want a guy who's considered to be one of the best teams in football expected to do other than beat the top teams.
I was shocked yesterday, Seth. I
There it is.
really thought that
Hey!
that was gonna be the surprise. That's right. It is. Oh, you can make a wish. Come on.
Oh, I'm always making a wish, man. You kidding me?
Happy birthday to you, Seth,
Thank you, man.
from all of us here at Hit 'em High and my new Philly, and Eagles fans out there everywhere wishing you a very
Tastes
happy
like victory.
birthday.
It tastes more like victory than what the Eagles did.
There it is. There it is.
What'd you wish for? I can't tell us because it won't come
Can't
true.
say it. Can't say it. I tell you what, though, man. I love what Lamar Jackson is doing. I felt really bad for him. The guy wins the Heisman, and you got, you know, these so-called gurus running around talking about he needs to move the wide receiver. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, how can a guy who threw for the amount of yards that he threw for in back-to-back seasons,
In an offense with nothing.
okay, and a guy who had compiled the type of rushing yards that he did, how could an NFL executive say, how could you know, he didn't even go back and try to adjust it, Bill Polian.
No.
You know, he just recently said, oh, I missed.
Right, I missed.
Yeah, I missed. But I'm like,
My favorite part of this argument.
just the audacity,
Yeah.
you know, so I'm more happy for
Well, you see
him.
why he ain't exec now, right?
I'm so happy for him, man, because you want to know something? This guy has got all the intangibles and all the tools, and him and guys like Patrick Mahomes,
future.
they are changing the dynamic
Yes.
of the quarterback
Russell Wilson
position
started it.
and the NFL.
Good point.
Okay, you're going to get to a point where if you don't have a guy that can move the pocket, that
Danny
can make
Dimes.
plays with his legs, he's not going to be able to survive in this new NFL.
My
He's
favorite
just
part
not
of the
gonna be able
argument
to do it.
was, we need to get the ball in his hands and put him in space. That's why he shouldn't play quarterback, because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands. Who has the ball in their hands more in
than
an
the
NFL game than the quarterback? I'll put the ball in Lamar
But you know what?
Jackson's
It's
hands
easy
on every play.
because they go through all the guys that have had, quote, running type quarterbacks, and they say it's easy to just move them. You know, you look at Vince Young, who was a Heisman guy. You look at guys, you know, other running quarterbacks. Even Michael Vick, who had a great career, but, you know, wasn't a true pocket passer. You know, they look at those guys and say it's easy to just move them to a different position versus, hey, that's where quarterback coaches come in, develop, make a guy better. And I give John Harbaugh all the credit in the world, because he not only said, you know what, we're going to move away and give this guy the keys, but they did it in a way that built an offense around him. They gave him a strong running game. He didn't even have dynamic wide receivers. Marquise Brown is his best wide receiver, and a bunch of tight ends. They run these three tight end sets that they're out there running. It's literally, like I heard, it's like having 8 offensive linemen out there.
You don't want to know why.
Perfect game plan.
You know why it's uniquely different and why defenses are having problems stopping it? Because everyone's built their defense to stop 11 personnel or multiple wide receiver sets. So when they come out with these tight ends, you don't even have the personnel. I mean, even if when they go to those 3 tight end sets, even if you go regular people with 3 linebackers and 4 downs, you're still not equipped.
Nope.
Because if my memory serves me correct, when they came in with bigs like that, a lot of times we would take a cornerback out of the game and put an extra linebacker in the game, A, to take care of the run, B, you know that 1 or 2 of those tight ends are not really receiver types, you know. And linebackers back in my day, hey, we could cover a tight end man-to-man in certain situations. But now what you get is if you come in with nickel, you know what, they run it up your behind. When you try to come in with regular people, now they know that they got an advantage in the passing game, and they hit you with these seam routes.
Right up the seam.
I mean, especially when they get into the red zone. I was talking to Ray Didinger about this yesterday. I am so sick and tired of watching tight ends run these shake routes and seam routes in the red zone. It's the oldest play in all of football, man. You know it's coming, and guys are getting beat by it week after week after week after week. What film are you watching? What studying are you doing every single week that the minute that they get in the red zone, the first thing as an outside linebacker that clicked in my mind, tight end seam. Okay? Now, if you want to run the out route, you had it all day. You ain't beat me on no seam route.
Right.
And you wonder why the Eagles, who have 2 talented pass-catching tight ends, don't run more of those sets.
Great question. I mean,
Even if you're going to play, listen, even if they get in 2 high safety, okay? How do you beat 2 high safety? You stress the safeties in their halves coverage, okay? So if you got a guy like Dallas Goedert that can get up the field and they're not going to jam him at the line of scrimmage, then you put your fastest wide receiver, send him on a go, send Dallas right at the safety. So now the safety's got a decision to make. I don't even want to hear it.
Oh, you mean Nelson? I'll send him all day. Run by yourself.
The safety has a decision to make, okay? The safety has to either take, he's either got to take the tight end on the vertical, or he's got to take that route on the sideline. And what I don't see Doug Peterson being creative enough and crafting enough, offensive plays that take advantage of teams when they're in these types of coverages. Everything you see is an out or crosser by our tight ends, an out or crosser. Where's the vertical stuff? You know, where you got Carson sitting in the pocket waiting. I seen him throw the ball behind a zone coverage once yesterday.
Yep.
Everything else is right there in front of him. And I'm telling you right now, if they do that against the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to get the snot knocked out of them.
Agreed.
Because that's what Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright love to
Bring
do.
that hit.
They like to sit back in those zones, let guys break those routes in front of them, and you know when the quarterback raises their hand, they coming, man. And when they coming, and when they get there, they got bad intentions.
One thing I love about Lamar Jackson, and I'm gonna say it, and I always have been fond of it, humble. Super humble kid.
Really impressive.
I mean, when people sat here and talked about him, he didn't get upset. The first week he came out, he threw the 4 or 5 touchdowns. He said, people said, you can't throw. He said, well, you know, I just got to keep working. I respect that because not only is he a winner, but he's not only going to win, but he's going to do it without having to talk about it. Just let my numbers speak for me. And when you got a mindset like that, you get a team that rallies behind you. Name me the last time you saw a player for the Baltimore Ravens go to the podium and represent Joe Flacco before he came into the podium like Mark Ingram did yesterday. This kid has literally started almost a full season in the NFL. Almost a full season. Just getting to a full season, and he's got the entire team's support. Mark Ingram came in from a whole different organization and is already rallied behind this kid. He's going to be good, man.
When you make plays, that's how you lead.
Well, you see Stephon Diggs ain't killing Kirk Cousins no more. He said give him a pat on the back.
Because he's making plays for him.
You have to make plays.
That's it.
And we're looking at Kirk Cousins in a different light right
Agreed.
now.
Absolutely.
Listen, thank you, Zach Brown. You helped my fantasy season.
Based upon how they're playing. The thing about Lamar Jackson, everybody said he couldn't throw the ball, you know. And you talk about these young guys now and trying to develop these young. The dynamic is so much different now. When you were talking about particularly black quarterbacks back in the day, there was no development. Nope. You understand what I'm saying? But these kids now, they got 7-on-7 camps going on in high school and youth football, and these guys are learning about coverages. You go back and you look at Jameis Winston, even though you know he's a turnover machine, you can go back and look before he came into the league, he had a notebook of coverages and routes that worked against those coverages ever since he was in junior high school, man. So these kids, the mentality is different, and they're learning the game different, and that's helping them develop in a different way. Now, the only thing all Lamar Jackson had to do was get a little more accurate. Yep. I mean, did you see him drop down and do a Patrick Mahomes yesterday?
Fit the ball in this tight of a window.
Come on. I mean, these are the types of quarterbacks that are going to run the NFL in the near future. If you're a pocket passer in the next 5 to 10 years and you can't get off your spot and make plays, there's not going to be a place for you in the NFL.
All right now, week 11. Is it going to be Patriots or Ravens?
Listen, they destroyed the Patriots. I love the Ravens right now because, like they said, it's not Tom Brady.
Don't count out the Chiefs. Don't count out the Chiefs
no,
either.
But the Chiefs have shown you they're very vulnerable.
It's clearly the Ravens and the Patriots are the two best teams in the AFC.
And the difference is the Ravens have beat talent. The Patriots kind of haven't. You look at the Patriots' wins this year. You look at the Ravens' schedule and who they've beaten this year. If you have to line them up, I like the Ravens against them, not because of the fact that they already beat better teams, but they beat the brakes off of the Patriots. I mean, it wasn't even
playing in Foxborough in the playoffs is a little different.
They won't be playing in Foxborough.
I will tell you this. I will tell you this. I never put anything past Bill Belichick. Last year, when everybody thought they was dead, when the Chiefs destroyed them early in the season, you know, everyone thought that the rim was over. Okay, and Bill Belichick figured out a way to reinvent that football team and won another Super Bowl. Do not sleep on Bill Belichick and his team right now. They're not looking how they need to look offensively, and a lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with the offensive line. They got a young wide receiver. Their first-round pick just played his first game yesterday. He's going to continue to get better. They're going to figure out a way to run the football. And when they run the football effectively, that's what makes them so much of a better offense. I'm telling you, don't sleep on them. Now, do they got to win some games? Yeah, they're going to have to continue to win games, and they're going to have to not tie the Baltimore Ravens. But if they wind up getting the #1 seed, and the Baltimore Ravens have to go to Foxborough for the AFC Championship, man. Yeah. I don't know if they can go up there and win that game.
Clinch their 19th.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Because Bill Belichick he's got film on him now. He's got his players playing against Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And you gonna tell me he's not already devising a plan?
He's thinking about it.
He's already devising a plan.
I'm sure he's thinking ahead. I'm sure he's thinking ahead.
Hey, they clinched their 19th consecutive winning season. No other franchise in the NFL has more than 7 consecutive.
The only one
winning
that did it was the
seasons.
Cowboys.
19 straight
Forever ago.
winning seasons. As we look ahead to our Kingsmark keys to beating the Seahawks, remember,
Beating the Seahawks.
contact Kingsmark Custom Cabinets and Design for any of your cabinetry needs. Go to kingsmarkcabinets.com. Eagles fans are going to be frustrated by this game because you got two guys coming in here that the Eagles actually could have had in DK Metcalf and Josh Gordon. Two playmakers.
Oh, and Jadeveon Clowney, don't forget him too.
And Jadeveon
who had a
Clowney.
monster week last week.
Playmakers that the Eagles could have had, maybe should have had. But how do you beat the Seattle Seahawks?
I'm going to let you go because I got nothing.
I'm going to save him for last because I know he's probably going to have the best idea out of all of us. Mine is just going to be simple, and I'm just going to say make them one-dimensional, right? Make them one-dimensional. Do not allow Chris Carson to develop the running game, and do not allow Russell Wilson to just dominate you in the passing game, right? You don't want that balance. If you can key in and make them one-dimensional, force them to run the ball, or force them to throw the ball every time and don't worry about Chris Carson. It's the only way you're going to beat this team because they're so multi-talented. They can beat you in so many different ways. They have so many different weapons. Russell Wilson, if not for Lamar Jackson, is the MVP right now. This is going to be a very difficult test for the Eagles defense, but I'll tell you something. If they play the way that they did yesterday against Tom Brady, they have a chance.
I assume you're talking on defense because if they play like you played on offense, they're not going to beat anybody. Here's what I'll say. Man, this is probably one of the hardest ones to do because I look at the film. Russell Wilson is an MVP candidate.
Yes.
And like you said, minus Lamar Jackson, he's a runaway candidate, okay?
Yes.
That said, he's not only making plays with guys like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, who most people wouldn't consider top-tier players, but now they just added Josh Gordon, who the Eagles haven't seen yet, okay?
He's making plays. Jacob Hollister
There it is.
making
I mean,
plays
but
for
that's
them.
that's a quarterback elevating the play of guys around him, making guys around him better. And they finally have something they haven't had since Mr. Marshawn Lynch left town, and that's a solid running game. They are a balanced team, and Pete Carroll is very good, minus that Super Bowl, of calling good game plans and actually executing. I think their defense gets after. I don't know because the Eagles don't have enough weapons on offense to beat them in a shootout. And defensively, they could play the same way, but they're playing against a much more potent offense. I don't see it. The only thing I think they can do is Carson has to have a 2017 game. He has to have that game against the Rams where he was lighting the world on fire, hitting everybody, making all types of plays. The problem is, who's he going to throw the ball to? We saw one pass to Mac Hollins go over his head by 10 yards, and Nelson Aguilar doesn't want to catch a cold. So who's he going to throw the ball to? Dallas Goedert was cool till he started getting hit. And, I mean, Zach Ertz is going to get you a couple catches here and there, but he's no Yak Zach. So what do you expect? I don't know where the playmakers are going to come from, and they're too banged up. I don't have a Kingsmark key other than Carson playing like 2017 Carson.
Seth?
In my opinion, this is going to be their greatest defensive challenge because Carson is a straight-up man. I mean, when he runs the ball, he's got evil intentions. And I mean, you know, Nate Gary had a hard time tackling Mohamed Sanu yesterday.
Accurate.
Okay? You mean to tell me he gonna come up and deal with Chris Carson, man?
No.
And I don't see any other linebacker
Nope.
that want any of that smoke. I don't see no safeties that really want any of that smoke.
They don't want DK Metcalf neither.
But I think at the end of the day, because the Eagles are a good run defending defense, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to their ability to pressure Russell Wilson, and more importantly, keep him in the pocket. You know, our defensive ends have a tendency to just, rush with their hair on fire with no concern about rush lanes, containment. Sometimes our tackles get caught up in that. And if you allow Russell Wilson to break the pocket, the issue is going to be is that, when you're in zone coverage, he's going to buy time, and guys are going to come back. They're going to toe tap on the sideline. He's going to complete passes out of the pocket. Okay, that's just what he does if you don't keep him in the pocket.
One of the best.
And
When
when you can keep him in the pocket, he has a way of stepping up and stepping back and just making you look silly. The other thing is when you start playing man coverage against him and he breaks the pocket, now you got really big problems.
Agreed.
Because now he's running 15, 20 yards down the field, and the only guy that can see him is a single high safety because everybody else is playing man-to-man with their back to
Chasing their guy, trying not to get
So, I
hit,
mean, to me, that's going to be the key to the game on the offensive side of the ball is Jim Schwartz coming up with a plan of how to contain and keep Russell Wilson in the pocket and make him play the game every single snap from the pocket, okay? The other thing, on the defensive side of the ball, that's going to be interesting. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to say that's going to be interesting because, I think the Eagles have to run the football. It's just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. they just don't have enough weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Zach Ertz is not enough.
Nope.
You know, and the underutilization last week of Miles Sanders just blows my mind. I mean, here's a guy that's almost leading your team in receptions and reception yards, and you don't use him at all yesterday in a game where he could have really been the difference in that football game. So I'm just trying to figure out, you know, yesterday, they said, okay, give us your predictions for the game. And I said, you know what? I'm conflicted. I said, because if Doug Peterson would come out and run the football, then I would say the Eagles are going to win this game. But I just know that he's not going to come out and run the football, so I can't pick them. Because they can't win the game with Carson throwing the ball 40-something times. They're just not going to win that way, okay? So if he's going to go in